On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there is having themselves a great day. Tell you what, the deep state's going all in on what they've been doing lately. We're going to get more of the same, more of all of the things that they've been showing us. They're going to continue to pile on more of it. And on top of that, they're asking us to believe that Biden and Harris are the answer to peace. And all we need to do is just concede to what they would like, and everything will be fine. Kind of funny how that works out. But the problem is people are waking up. People are waking up in huge numbers. The polls are even starting to show it. And I think there's a lot of the people of the silent majority that are starting to maybe speak up a little more. And a lot of the people that are kind of in the middle or have been leaving or the just walk away movement, all of these people are starting to also chime in on what's going on. What we've been seeing is a world we don't like. Got a couple new Q posts, too, to start off everything, to make it fun and fresh, like we enjoy it. Post 4770, where we left off, referencing an older post. This is kind of interesting. It's all around General Flynn and when he's potentially going to be released. Obviously, for those of you that maybe don't know, General Flynn kind of agreed to lying to the FBI about having a conversation with the Russian ambassador or whoever he was. But he didn't really lie, and then he was able to finally pull that back. And then the Attorney General dropped the charges, so there's no more charges against him. And now we have Judge Sullivan, who's basically refusing to let this go. We believe that he got information or orders from somebody that said basically, make this go as long as you can. So essentially, Judge Sullivan's career, I'm sure, is in question. This slide talks to all of this. The timing of when Flynn's going to be released, when Sullivan may be finally disappearing from the limelight. And that date in and of itself, I think, is probably significant to a much larger indictments coming out kind of scenario. So this one slide, to me, feels like it's got 1,000 pieces of information in it, right? This is one picture with 1,000 words. So let's try to walk through this if we can. So on March 27th, an anon said he wanted General Flynn freed. And then Q responded that it would be done in 30. So you can see free Flynn, right? And then done in 30, house cleaning, White House secured, final stage. Okay, pretty serious. I think a lot of people, of course, assumed 30 days. Obviously, that didn't happen because this was back on the 27th of 2018. So quite a while ago. So then people figured, all right, what's the over-under that this is done in 30 months? So Q even gives us 3/27/18, which is interesting. He gives us 3/27/18, which makes sense. That's when this would have started. And then he gives us a link to a calculator for dates. Now, I want to point out a couple things with this that I think are interesting. So I think there's a small window, but whatever. We'll see what we see. I mean, he's talking about literally within a week. We should have our answers. But what he also says here is, what is the over-under that Sullivan retires or steps down by March of 2021. Well, see, March of 2021, oddly, March of 2018, that'd be a full 3 years, 36 months, which is not 30, but that's, like I said, it's interesting. Are we looking at maybe at that point in March of next year, assuming Trump wins and all that stuff, that maybe serious indictments finally start happening? Not sure. But Sullivan disappearing, stepping down, something happening would be very telling of potential other deep state falling, deep state pins going down, if you will, like a strike. So we'll see what happens on that. But March 21st, they're calling out for what's the over-under on Sullivan retiring or stepping down based off of the public information regarding possible coordinated efforts with this whole Mueller Office of a Special Counsel that was going on, this whole scam, this whole chance to try to take down a duly elected president from the get-go. So let's look at the calculations real quick. The one that he shares with us, and this has got the dates in it kind of sort of 29, 2/1/20. So anyway, one of these is the 29th. Okay, so this is the one that Q links. And when you calculate this, it's kind of interesting. It gives you a result of 917 days. That's sort of significant just in and of itself, right? It's got the word 17 in it, so the number 17, I should say, which references Q frequently. Also, the number 9, if you were to look at that as a letter, that's the letter I don't know, IQ, interesting, or saying I am Q or IQ as in intelligence quotient, not sure. Not sure if there's any relation there. But it's odd that he's not counting. He didn't have this checkbox checked, include end date calculation. Maybe I'm getting too heavy into this, but he used the 27th as the first and somehow chose the 29th as the end date, but not counting it. So what that means to me is that the 29th doesn't count. It's not really a day. I would say what he's telling us is either A, the 28th is significant, which would be Monday. So maybe the 28th is significant and he's doing it in his little Cody way, right? So I don't know. Trump's supposed to today at 5 o'clock Eastern time tell us that he's definitely going to go with that lady for the Supreme Court. So Coney, I don't remember her whole name yet. I'll learn it in time, but whatever. So 327, 929, he gave us these days. If you look at it specifically as 30, 90, or 30 months exactly, that would take you to 927, right? If you start in 327 exactly, the 30 months later, it would be September 27th of 2020. And I would also include the end date. So when I calculated that, I got 916 days. Either way, we're talking within a couple days here, right? Small margin of error. But whatever the case is, not 100% sure what he's meaning with that. We will find out. We're talking 2-3 days from now. Maybe something happens around Flynn, I'm assuming. And then again, if something happens around Flynn, then I would say we should see for the next marker to be around March of next year. And probably Judge Sullivan's finally going to get what's going on. So all of you Q followers that are out there, of course, you got the memo. We all had our meeting, giant Zoom meeting. There was millions of us. Oh, so small little tiles. Couldn't see anybody. It was horrible. But obviously QAnon leaders took to look at rebranding after the tech crackdown. So apparently with all of these channels getting banned and barred and all these bad things happening on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all these different places, I guess apparently the QAnon leadership got together and had a meeting and said, all right, we need to rebrand ourselves. We're now going to call ourselves R. I don't know what they're going to do. A lot of people are playing around with just calling it our anonymous friend or whatever. And maybe by dropping the QAnon, it might actually help this message have more legs, right? Because now they don't have the crazy QAnon people out there. They're just like a bunch of people talking conspiracies, which maybe is better. I don't really know. We got to weigh those options because I don't think we're going to go away. You can call it Q, you can call it Z, you can call it W. It doesn't really matter. We'll figure out a way to talk about it, I guess. Or we'll just keep talking about the news in our own voice. Because that's the one thing that's killing the deep state right now. They can't handle it. And this is great examples of to what lengths they're actually trying to go to make all of this go away. They are just absolutely out of their minds. QAnon leaders look to rebrand, right? All of this facing crackdowns from tech companies that limit the reach of their content. Leaders in the QAnon conspiracy theory movement have been urging their followers to drop the QAnon label from their wide-ranging conspiracy theories and simply refer to their fight against a fictitious cabal of powerful baby-eating politicians without their increasingly problematic branding. Have you had some baby today? I certainly haven't. No, I've tried to cut back. Very, very fattening. Very fattening, yes. So QAnon leaders look to rebrand, I guess. I've heard some of the different people out there. X22 Report, for one example. You guys, he's huge. He's like 1 million followers. He's trying to name it slightly differently now. So whatever the case is, I forgot what our anonymous news or something funny like that. So yeah, a lot of people not happy with all this QAnon stuff. I say, so long as we keep focusing on facts, articles that support the discussions we're having, and really just kind of come at it from that angle. The fact that we've got this other board of crazy people that we look at and say, hey, cool, let's talk about this because it's fun. Can't go wrong. So 4772. Now this sort of seems apropos to the big picture. Why do I feel like I missed a part of this? Over the target. Yeah, so that's it. We're just saying we're over the target. And yeah, they're comparing Obamagate and Watergate. So I guess I did listen to them. Sorry about that. 4772. Never bring an arrow in a quiver to an LOS BR missile fight. LOS, line of sight, is what that stands for. And then BR is beam riding. Beam riding is kind of a generic term for basically any missile that's guided by radar, infrared, any kind of stuff like that. Here's kind of an example of an infrared missile. The little window up there is how it's able to, that zoomed in. There you go. That kind of gives you a chance to be able to see, how it works. So a beam rider is just, guided weapon essentially. But yeah, never bring an arrow in a quiver to a beam rider. Now, the arrow, of course, they're referring to actually was not said by Pelosi. Again, I'm not trying to give her credit. And one thing I know it's mean, but I don't care because I really don't like Nancy Pelosi. I don't think she's a good person. Maybe she started out as one, but when her soul finally completely disintegrated from like where her heart is, I don't know what happened, but I think as she's devoured more and more souls, I think it creates a longer like eyebrow. That's my guess. I think the eyebrows are created from the actual consumption of human souls. Well, so you can try that with your baby eating, but that's, I think, what is going on. Needless to say, when he asks her, and we get the question here that not taking anything out of your quiver, he's the one that mentioned about impeaching Trump. And he brings it up a second time. And I think that's where her real answer comes, which is not an answer, but it is, but it's not. Whatever. I'll let you guys have it.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
But to be clear, you're not taking any arrows out of your quiver. You're not ruling anything out.
Good morning. Sunday morning. We have a responsibility. We take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. We have a responsibility to meet the needs of the American people. When we weigh the equities, protecting our democracy requires us to use every arrow in our quiver.
Protecting our democracy, it seems like just an absolute crazy talk for what they really mean or really are intending. So not 100% sure what they mean by that. But yeah, this is what they're talking about. So bringing your quiver, not doing a whole lot, not really taking too much fight to this range or beam riding weapon that is on its way to you. So nothing new showing up in queue right now. Let's continue on. I've got some very interesting news that I think is kind of helpful to sort of point us in the direction that we're going to be going and also show you guys kind of how people are starting to wake up. What states it so simply is the road to nowhere. Whatever can't be politicized ceases to exist. And that's really what happens right now. If it's for some reason, if it's not something that's able to polarize us, something that's not like one of the things you shouldn't talk about or whatever, right? If it's not this major deal, it's really nothing. We don't talk about minor stuff anymore. Like how many times do we really get in debates about whether or not that call was good in the game? Like most of us are like, well, I didn't even see the game. It's so silly right now, right? So crazy stuff is going on. Also, again, to give us hope and what's starting to show up, there are voters in 4 battleground states that are filing lawsuits claiming the election meddling funded by Mark Zuckerberg. Now, remember, we had that situation with Bloomberg, right, in funding or paying for stuff to help pay people's fines in Florida. And by paying people's fines in Florida, he was allowing them to vote. Well, that's very, very illegal. You are not allowed to help people financially in any sort of way in order to try to entice them to vote. Big no-no. So he's probably going to get tied up in that. So on top of all that, we've got, according to a recent press release from the Amistad Project, voters in 4 key states have filed lawsuits in federal courts to block the alleged funneling of millions of dollars from Mark Zuckerberg, Google, and other Silicon Valley firms through the Center for Tech and Civic Life, the CTCL, which they allege is being used to influence the outcome of the presidential election. The plaintiff alleges that the use of funds violates a federal law known as the Help America Vote Act, which prohibits local governments from accepting federal election grants without state legislative approval, and as a result, forces the government to play favorites in the election process. The complaints allege that CTCL used the funds to issue grants to local municipal governments, which are allocating them to fund election activities. These efforts are intentionally targeting Democratic strongholds for the purpose of boosting voter turnout in those areas that delivered an overwhelming majority for Hillary Clinton in 2016 election in an effort to sway the 2020 election, according to the lawsuit. More information is going to be coming around that, but is anyone surprised that these tech companies are so heavily involved in the outcome? Because of the censorship and Section 230 and the fact that they really want to be able to be in China, and to be in China, you've got to basically be able to censor the entire internet for the most part to make China part of the game, because you can't speak poorly of China. You're not allowed. So how do you get around that? You don't. You tell China, oh, we'll do whatever you say. We just want your billions. Again, that's what you get with Biden and Harris. What we get with Trump is someone that's fighting for this country and saying, no, China, no. And so that's kind of what we're experiencing right now. So interesting that there's a poll. A majority of likely voters don't, oddly, attribute the California wildfires to climate change. What? But Gavin Newsom said, well, I guess a majority of the people, and I was kind of surprised on the numbers, but apparently a majority of these people actually disagree with him. The survey asked likely voters, this was a Reuters poll, I can't get to it because I don't have the proper silver access or whatever the hell, here's the question they asked: which is the more likely reason that wildfires in California are spreading? Climate change or a variety of other natural and human factors? A majority, or 54%, attributed it to a variety of other natural and human factors, while 41% said climate change, and 5% remained unsure. That's tricky when you're sitting on the fence like that. 41%. Now, to a degree, that's surprising that there's that many people, but at the same time, this is California, and there you go. And on top of that, I want to say there was, 1,500 likely voters, all right? 1,500 likely voters. They could have been at the same Walmart and then gone to a different Walmart the next weekend and gotten, so whatever. Like, the numbers are what the numbers are. And again, I always hate polls, but it was just interesting that even the poll, because normally polls slant to the left. I mean, they just usually do. And for some reason, this one didn't. Interesting. Oh, so on top of all that, California is also accused of dishonest cop-out for blaming Trump for fires. This is kind of funny in general. California Governor Gavin Newsom is trying to blame anyone for everything for his state's wildfires, except himself, his Democratic Party, and the radical green groups that have dictated the California agenda for the past 40 years. Why am I being so hard on Gavin Newsom? Because I live in California, and this guy sucks. I just don't like him. And on top of that, he recently passed a law that said by 2035, I think, you're no longer allowed to have a gas-powered car in California. Again, Trump has said in the past he's not too fond of California trying to set the automotive agenda for the country. So odds are this is, I'm hoping, going to be turned over. And certainly if Trump wins, I'm hoping a lot of things change in general. But that being said, it makes me realize that you can't go but like 250 miles currently in a battery-powered car. And so the options that are going to be available to us if we want to get away, head out to Vegas, head up to Oregon, or go out to the desert, whatever, it's going to be a lot more difficult than it is if I can get gas and stop someplace and literally spend 5 minutes and fill my car back up and be able to drive another 350 miles rather than having to park someplace, pay a bunch of money, plug my car into a supercharger, and wait 30, 40, 50 minutes. And on top of that, I don't know, but in most batteries that I've used, charging them quickly tends to burn them out faster. So I'm thinking to myself, these super duper expensive batteries that are going to exist in these zero emission cars are going to go out frequently. And that's going to be expensive. So there's just a lot of aspects about this technology that I don't like. And I think hybrid's better. But again, I mean, I'm on board with trying to make the world a better place, but that's a crazy jump. And we're not ready for that. So one thing that's also interesting, and again, people are starting to wake up to this crazy maniacalness that we're getting from some of these leaders. I mean, the leader in New York, he just passed some crazy laws that he's locking stuff down, I think even further, right? It's kind of craziness over there. Florida's completely opened up, which is awesome. They're going to get a lot of crap for it, though. You know that. You know they're going to start imagining all sorts of super high numbers and all that. But I guess the Florida governor's like, I don't care. I'm not going to shut it back down again. So right now, we've got the left that is throwing a tantrum already because they hate Trump, and it's getting close to election time. So the tantrum sort of kind of speeding up to this kind of super tantrum. It's gathering some momentum. And right now, they're threatening everything under the sun. If we actually replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg, if we do that beforehand, there's a big problem. They're talking about trying to pass laws to shorten terms of Supreme Court people. They're threatening to pack the court. We've also got people on the left that are threatening to burn down cities, to burn down and cause more damage. We're getting all sorts of crazy talk from all sorts of crazy people. We've also got this silliness happening over here, again, where they're talking about about Biden and Trump, and if Biden doesn't win and all this. Let's check out these comments. It's just absolutely insane as this civil war is what they're claiming is going to happen unless Joe Biden wins. It's just craziness to me. Let's check this out.
I found it stunning and surprising, Anderson. I began my career as a journalist covering Lebanon's second civil war and its history. And I'm terrified to find myself ending my career as a journalist covering America's potential second civil war in its history.
You really believe that?
Yeah, I think what happened in the last few days is a 6-alarm fire I think it's DEFCON 5. The President of the United States has told us either I win the election or I delegitimize the election. Those are your choices, folks. And he basically is trying to break people's will to really get people to say, what the heck? He wants it so bad, you just give it to him. I think this is certainly the most frightening moment in my life. It's frightening because of him. It's frightening because he's backed by a state-owned network. And it's terrifying because the Republican Party has become basically a political brothel that rents itself out by the night to whoever will energize its base, whether it was Sarah Palin or the Tea Party and now Trump. This is a party that went into its convention with no platform, and basically said, whatever Trump wants, we want. If you're not frightened now, if you are not terrified for what could happen, it's not we might have a disputed election. It is we are going to have a disputed election, almost certainly, unless Trump wins, in which case I shudder to think what 4 more years of this would be like.
So again, this is one of the things that we're noticing all over the place is they project. They're constantly saying what they're doing, and then they blame the Republicans for doing it. They're saying the Republicans had no platform. Trump had all sorts of things he came in fired up to do, and a lot of people were stoked about it because someone was finally going to do something other than what the typical deep state mojo was. And then on top of that, when you think of what Biden and Harris are about, they're just about attacking Trump. They don't really have a whole lot to promote. They haven't given us who their nomination would have been. So again, it's just such a two-sided thing. And this is the scariest time ever. Yeah, it's pretty scary because we almost lost the United States, the United States of America, the people, the Constitution. We almost lost that. And we've got a very solid coup attempt that seems to be in motion. But again, people are waking up to this. People are seeing it. Another thing that's awesome, Lisa Murkowski, she's one of the Republicans that's basically a deep state Republican, kind of been a little shady on a few votes here and there. Not real helpful when the going got tough. But again, we had 52 senators. 2 of them are these knuckleheads. So we still got 50 without them. Kind of helps out. But what's super cool is Sarah Palin's actually considering challenging this wonderful piece of trash in the next Alaskan Senate race, which is in 2 years. So it's not going to be this year. It'll be in 2022. But it'll be really awesome to see her take down this deep state troll in 2 years. So, and Sarah Palin's really cute. She's got that fun accent. So whatever the case is, you go, girl. I love it. Now, just kind of a quick one here, but Mike Pompeo is supposed to help the top Vatican officials for Religious Freedom Symposium. And again, right now, everybody hates Catholics, right? That's the whole big thing with the Supreme Court person coming into play, which my next screen is going to show. But I'm just wondering how they're going to kind of get through this, how they're going to deal with the problems that exist right now, with Mike Pompeo talking to the Catholic Church. Oh, no. I mean, they are like one of the largest, there's like 1 billion Catholics in the world. So it's certainly quite a few people that are, quote, religious dogma freaks that the left likes to call them. And again, interesting that the left, who pretty much soulless in a lot of cases, even though they call themselves the morality police, but they're the ones that, are okay with abortion or okay with, a lot of these kinds of nefarious Antifa, people beating people that they don't agree with, shooting Trump supporters, those kinds of things. They're pretty okay with that. But God forbid you talk to a priest. And by the way, the Catholic Church used to own science pretty much up until, like 400 years ago, 300 years, 200 years, whatever. Like all the people that did science, if you went against the church, back when they said we were the center of the universe, if you were one of the people that are like, no, we seem to like revolve around the sun. They're like, no, we're the center of the universe. Like, no, I swear, it really seems like we go around the sun. They're like, death to you. And that was it. End of the story. And I don't know why that was the accent, but it doesn't matter. Whoops. This one probably matters. So kind of my whole point was here is people aren't liking Amy. I say people on the left, deep state, evil people with no hearts, people that actually have no souls, people that are maybe in line with Lucifer, maybe people that eat children. I don't know. That's what all these Q supporters talk about. So maybe those people too. I don't know if they exist, but if they do, they probably don't like her either. But apparently the problem they have with her, she's really, really Catholic. Not just Catholic. She's really, really Catholic. Super Catholic. She's got like a Catholic cape. She flies around and puts out Catholic fires with holy water. I don't know what the hell she does. But Bill Maher is pretty pissed off. Amy Cohen is, she's Catholic, really Catholic. I mean, really, really Catholic, like speaking in tongues. We don't need to read the rest of his comments, kind of lame. And again, not very funny to begin with, but this is what a lot of the left are going to be talking about. One of the things that's tough about this is if you're being nominated for Supreme Court and Senate's questioning you, there's some Article 6 or 3 or whatever the heck that doesn't allow you to question them on their religious preferences because it's kind of like against the law. It's like you're not allowed to choose somebody based off of their religious creed, sex, right? Like we've got laws, the ones that you guys on the left tends to speak so strongly about. So you're not allowed to do that. And what's also interesting to me is, wasn't RBG Jewish? Isn't Jewish like the crazy other religion, like Catholic? Like these are two very, very big religions that have historic precedent, if you will. And so they've been around a while too. And obviously, a lot of the other religions obviously don't like the Catholic religion because they broke away from them, Protestant and all that stuff, right? So again, a lot of things are coming up that are frankly just old religious wars. It's just one more thing we can fight about. Yay. Love it. Tom Cotton's doing something very cool. And, you know, as stoic as this guy is, I mean, I'm sure he's just a ball of laughs when you're hanging out with him. But as cool as that might be, Tom Cotton launches a war room to help fight attacks on Trump's Supreme Court nominee. It's pretty cool. Senator Tom Cotton has announced his office will operate a campaign-style war room. It's going to push back the attacks on President Donald Trump's nominee for Supreme Court and promote the candidate. So very cool that we've got him kind of stepping into the fray and truly trying to help out. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard the bombshell. I'm sure you have. There's been a bunch of these bombshells going off, and isn't that kind of like boom, boom, boom? I mean, when they talk about bombshells, that's a pretty good one. But FBI knew the subsource for Steele dossier was a Russian operative, but they lied to the FISA court anyway. It now looks like even the first request for the FISA spying thing was false. Like they knew they were lying right out of the gate. Got more information that's come out, more text messages, more messages. There's so much stuff that got dumped over the past, 72 hours. It's unreal. But this guy, he's not looking good either. I keep wondering if he's like, I don't know if you've been watching my show. There was a post a while back where they did Comey and Brennan, and the way the names spaced out and how many there were, they were like the size of the Twin Towers. So they've been trying to say this is going to be as big as what happened in 9/11 as far as the way it affected the American people. And I said, well, okay, that's cool. Those would make sense for the first two people. But I said, I wonder if there's a Building 7. I wonder if there's that third person. There's a lot of people don't even realize that Building 7 actually fell also. I doubt that many in my audience, but just in the general populace. So I keep wondering if this guy is maybe Building 7. We'll see. I mean, I'm just speculation there completely. But the Russian subsource, the person that we all know and love, yes, this guy is Christopher Steele. He is apparently the primary subsource of the Steele dossier. Yeah. He was suspected as a Russian spy well before they ever approached him with Hillary Clinton's money and asked him to write up a dossier about Donald Trump. So they went to a known Russian spy, asked him to write a dossier that would show that Trump and Flynn were Russian spies. Wait, what? Anyway, that hurts my brain. Seriously? Is that what's going on here? You went to a Russian spy to write a dossier to claim that this other guy, your candidate, is a Russian spy. Oh, good Lord. I hope no one ever finds out about that. Oh, no, we're in 2020 and we apparently have. Look what's going on. The Washington-based Russian national who supplied former British intelligence officer Christopher Steele with the most of the unverified claims in the infamous Russian dossier was himself investigated by the FBI. So the source, the primary source, this guy, they gave it to him. I'm sorry. So Christopher Steele is not the source. His primary source that gave him his info. My bad on that. But still, they knew way back when. So yeah, according to documents that have now been released by Attorney General William Barr on the 24th, that's 2 days ago. These documents are flowing around everywhere, and a lot of people are making noise about this. Now, I've got one interesting story that's not as political in nature, but I think super good news, and I think it ties directly into China and their evil influence on us, if you will. But the FBI had a giant bust in Delaware. They seized enough fentanyl to kill 750,000 people. Yes, almost 1 million people. There's enough fentanyl to kill that many people. George Floyd, had fentanyl in his system. Fentanyl, one way it kills people is through constriction of breathing. You suffocate. You cannot breathe. It's one of the many ways that people die when they overdose on this drug. This drug is gnarly. It's supposedly 50 times more powerful than heroin. Crazy stuff. So yes, 75% of Delaware's total population is what 750,000 represents. And by the way, for those of you that think, oh, popular vote, right? You got 750,000 people. Oh, no. My county has 3.5 million people in it, right? Like I could fit the entire state of Tennessee in my county. So again, sometimes you don't necessarily want to go with popular only. Sometimes you want Tennessee to have a say too, not just Orange County. Not fair, right? So again, these are the things that are starting to happen. Look, folks, if you see something, say something, be aware, make friends with your neighbors, make arrangements and relationships with people, because it's super important right now. If people are waking up, help them out along the way, but also be prepared. I think we're going to have some interesting times come up. I think we might have another one of those grocery store incidents or maybe a riot near you. So be prepared, have extra food, kind of like an earthquake kit's what we call it out here. Make sure you're ready just for the eventuality that you might have to go a few days without groceries or a few days without toilet paper or whatever your hang up is. Make sure you got some of that extra stuff with you at all times. We're getting towards the end. I think once we get past this election, we'll have a little bit of crazy, all these people freaking out. We'll experience that, and then things should start to taper down, and then we'll see where we go. I still think we've got a rough road ahead. I think the next 4 years are going to be very, very interesting. So let's stay together on this. Let's keep moving forward. Let's keep being good to people too. And most importantly, where we go one, we go all. It's on the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle.